Our top story tonight, a long and substantive phone call between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and President Trump's advisors. The peace talks proceeded as Russia launched a wide-reaching overnight attack on Ukraine, hitting power stations and other energy infrastructure. A suspect has been charged in the Friday stabbing on a light rail train in Charlotte, North Carolina, and court documents show he's in the country illegally. The National Park Service is making changes to its free admission calendar. Find out which days you can visit the parks free of charge in 2026. The White House has launched a multi-pronged campaign this week that pushes back in real time on what it calls media bias and manufactured hoaxes. An expert discusses the pros and cons of this approach. And in college football, it's Championship Saturday with multiple playoff spots up for grabs. NTD's Dave Martin joins us with the latest updates.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Arlene Richards. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said he had a long and substantive phone call today with President Trump's advisors, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The call came after a third day of negotiations between U.S. and Ukrainian officials in Miami, where the two sides discussed Trump's proposed peace plan. Zelenskyy said on X, quote, "We agreed on the next steps and formats for talks with the United States. Meanwhile, Russia unleashed a major missile and drone barrage on Ukraine overnight into Saturday. Ukrainian authorities say at least 8 people were wounded. Ukraine's national energy operator said the attacks hit power stations and other energy infrastructure in several regions. The International Atomic Energy Agency said Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant temporarily lost all off-site power overnight. The agency also said today the protective shield around the Chernobyl nuclear disaster site in Ukraine can no longer do its job. A drone strike earlier this year damaged the steel structure that confines radioactive waste. Russia has denied carrying out the strike. From fuel efficiency changes, a regional peace deal, and new immigration action, the Trump administration has been active on multiple fronts. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your White House week in review.
The Trump administration lowered the fuel efficiency standards previously set during the Biden administration.
Today, my administration has taken historic action to lower costs for American consumers, protect American auto jobs, and make buying a car much more affordable.
Environmental groups oppose the move. President Trump praised the leaders of Congo and Rwanda as they signed a U.S.-backed peace agreement that also opens access to critical minerals for the U.S.
They've spent a lot of time killing each other, and now they're going to spend a lot of time hugging, holding hands, and taking advantage of the United States of America economically like every other country does.
I would like to thank his administration and also wish to thank the American people.
Treasury officials launched a probe into allegations that Minnesota taxpayer funds were diverted to a Somalia-based terror group.
These Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country.
And the White House alleged that dozens of individuals in Minnesota, largely of Somalian descent, looted taxpayers out of over $1 billion that was intended for child food assistance.
In fact, those organizations' leaders spent the money on houses, luxury cars, and real estate in Turkey and Kenya.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry said the city's law enforcement won't cooperate with ICE agents on any immigration enforcement actions.
What you see is a visual representation of we have your back, and when you come for one of us, you come for all of us.
And Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said on Thursday that the administration plans to expand the number of countries covered by its travel ban to more than 30, speaking on Fox News.
If they don't have a stable government there, if they don't have a country that can sustain itself and tell us who those individuals are and help us vet them, why should we allow people from that country to come here to the United States?
The United States announced this week it will restrict visas for Nigerians and their family members involved in mass killings and violence against Christians.
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage in calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria.
Federal authorities launched a new immigration enforcement operation this week in New Orleans.
You're under arrest. You're illegally present in the United States. You understand that?
President Trump said a meeting between two U.S. envoys with Russian President Vladimir Putin was reasonably good.
What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango.
President Trump and the First Lady also presided over the national Christmas tree lighting ceremony.
During this holy season, Christians everywhere rejoice at the miracle in Bethlehem more than 2,000 years ago.
And the Trump administration is tightening screening procedures for H-1B visas used for highly skilled foreign workers. The State Department says candidates linked to any form of censorship of free speech could be denied under the new guidelines. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
A suspect has been charged in the Friday stabbing on a light rail train in Charlotte, North Carolina. The male victim sustained serious injuries and was taken to a hospital. Court documents say the accused stabber is in the country illegally and was deported previously. This incident comes just months after Ukrainian refugee was fatally stabbed on the same train line, allegedly by a man with a lengthy criminal record. That case gained national attention after President Trump reacted to it, criticizing what he considers soft-on-crime policies in Democrat-run cities. The suspect in this latest stabbing has been identified as 33-year-old Oscar Solorzano. Local police say he's been charged with 5 counts, including attempted first-degree murder. President Trump took to Truth Social today, writing, "Another stabbing by an illegal migrant in Charlotte, North Carolina. What's going on in Charlotte? Democrats are destroying it like everything else, piece by piece." The administration has taken steps to tighten immigration restrictions since a man from Afghanistan was accused of shooting 2 National Guard troops in D.C., killing one and critically injuring the other. A busy week on Capitol Hill as lawmakers welcomed a new congressman, unveiled their health care plans, and were briefed by top military commanders on action against alleged narco-terrorists. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has the details.
House of Representatives has a new member after the special election this Tuesday in Tennessee. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson swore in Congressman Matt Van Epps after winning the special election for Tennessee's 7th district.
I come to this distinguished body as a Christian, a husband and a father, and an Army Special Operations helicopter pilot with 9 combat tours, who has seen firsthand what makes this nation exceptional.
And the Senate and House Armed Services Committee members were briefed by the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, and Special Operations Commander Admiral Bradley on the September 2nd strikes on narco-terrorists in the Caribbean.
Admiral Bradley and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff did the right thing. Admiral Bradley defended the decisions taken, and Admiral Bradley has a storied career, and he has my respect, and he should have the respect of all of us. But what I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. That video shows, if you don't have the broader context, an attack on shipwrecked sailors.
These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful.
Senate Democratic leadership unveiled their proposal to address the expiring ACA healthcare tax credits.
Today I'm announcing that Senate Democrats will introduce legislation for a 3-year clean extension of the current ACA tax credits.
Democratic leadership is demanding a 3-year clean extension of the COVID-era subsidies, while a bipartisan group of lawmakers in the House of Representatives is proposing a 2-year extension with reforms to the subsidies.
For us, this is all about working together to find common ground for the American people and to make life more affordable for them. The framework includes an extension of health insurance premium savings for American families with targeted modifications to help ensure families can still get the help they need.
What you see before you are a bipartisan group of congressmen and women who have come together to find a solution to a problem that all Americans care about, health care. We did what we said we would do after the 43-day government shutdown. We came together to discuss healthcare reform and the looming expiration of ACA enhanced premium tax credits.
The reforms in the bipartisan-led proposal are yet to be determined, but are stipulated to be set into paper before July 1st of 2026. Both the Senate Democratic leadership proposal and the House bipartisan proposal will receive a vote before the end of December. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Trump just presented medals to the 2025 Kennedy Center honorees during an Oval Office event. He says they are among the greatest artists of their generation.
A privilege to pay tribute to the very best in American arts and culture, and that's what you have beside me. This is a group of icons whose work and accomplishments have inspired, uplifted, and unified millions and millions of Americans.
This year's recipients are actor Sylvester Stallone, singers Gloria Gaynor and George Strait, the rock band Kiss, and actor-singer Michael Crawford. According to the Kennedy Center, the medal is designed and donated by the famous jeweler Tiffany. President Trump will also attend an annual State Department dinner for the honorees later tonight and join the Kennedy Center honor ceremony Sunday night. And as 2026 approaches, the National Park Service is making changes to its free admission calendar. According to the agency's website, Martin Luther King Jr. Day as well as Juneteenth are no longer listed as free admission days. Several days were added, including September 17th, which is Constitution Day, and June 14th, which is Flag Day. Other free admission days next year include President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day weekend, the Park Service's 110th birthday, Theodore Roosevelt's birthday, and Veterans Day. The free admissions will only apply to U.S. citizens and residents. Coming up, an expert discusses the Trump administration's latest move to push back against what it called deliberate distortions by activist journalists. Has the administration gone too far? That and more after the break. This week, the White House launched a new public database called the Media Bias Portal to expose fake news. A press release about the database says it catalogs the avalanche of lies, deliberate distortions, and manufactured hoaxes churned out by activist journalists. The administration also launched a website that lists the journalists and their news outlets' articles alongside what the White House calls the actual facts. Now, what's behind this latest move? Could it infringe on free speech? Joining us now is Jeffrey Tucker, the founder and president of the Brownstone Institute, a nonprofit organization focused on post-pandemic freedom and reform. He's also a senior columnist for the Epoch Times. Welcome back, Jeffrey. It's good to see you as always.
Surely.
Now, this administration is putting reporters on notice. In addition to the database and website, it's very active on social media. So here's an example of what officials are posting on social media.
Hi, I'm Lauren Biss, Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm here to set the record straight on a few fake news stories from this week. First, we have another disgusting pepper spray hoax. Guys, ICE does not pepper spray children.
Now, in case you didn't catch that, she says ICE doesn't pepper spray children. And then she goes on to provide what she calls the facts on what actually happened. So, Jeffrey, have you seen a more aggressive information campaign coming from the White House in previous years?
I'm not sure that I have, but and I would be inclined to say at first, when I first heard about this, I thought, well, this is not good. This is somehow overriding the prerogatives of a free press. They can say whatever they want, and it's not up to the government to dictate what the news should be. I mean, that was my first instincts. But then I watched what they actually put out, and I thought, my goodness, what's being reported in the mainstream press is an outrageous distortion of the facts that the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have by virtue of the case particulars. And they were reporting and clarifying the actual truth behind these what seemed to me to be very much wild, biased distortions by the media. So it occurred to me as I was watching this, I thought, you know, it kind of makes sense that they have to do this rather than seeing a public get inflamed with false information. It's better to put out the actual context. And, you know, all they're doing is sharing the actual facts of the case. They're not threatening anybody. They're not telling people to not report the other thing or whatever. I mean, they're not using coercion in any sense. They're just telling their side of the story. And I don't know. I found it very enormously valuable. I could see how this could be abused, but looking at based on what I saw so far, it doesn't seem like an abuse at all. All the abuses seem to be on the other side of the people that are reporting things that didn't actually happen or leaving out very important context that would help settle the public down and clarify the policies in question.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what else might be behind this latest move. So as you know, the speed at which information travels as well as its reach has increased dramatically over the years. And that makes it easier for news outlets to continually push out news stories, which is what I think they're trying to get behind. So do you see this administration's information campaign as a direct response to this rapid fire news?
I think it must be, and I'm very sympathetic with this in some ways. I mean, I think anybody who's been subjected to some kind of media campaign based on incomplete, false, or distorted information can understand why the Trump administration wants to just not go forward with a new interpretation. If you watch these videos, all they're doing is giving the context, the facts, certain features of the incident in question that have been left out of the media to create a wildly distorted impression. I can totally understand why they would do this. Now, as to whether or not previous administrations have done this, I think they probably, if they have attempted it, they've not done as well. I don't think you've ever had a relationship between a presidential executive administration and the press that has been, and the mainstream press, or what some people call the legacy corporate press, that has been so hostile. It's been unrelentingly divisive and hostile now going on 10 years. Everybody knows this. So we can fully expect that these legacy media outlets would use every occasion to make the Trump administration look bad. And you look at it from the point of view of the public, all we really want are the facts of the case, right? Many people are just independent and looking for what's going on. And, you know, in the case of this immigration thing, I'm a very good example of a person in this position. I would like to know what ICE is actually doing, whether there's any justification for it. You know, are they using excessive force? Are they really going into daycares and all this other kind of thing? When the media is reporting one story and the administration comes back and gives documented proof that there's a larger context, there's other things going on, that there is a justification for what they're doing. If they're using force, it's because force is first used against them, and so on. As a viewer, I would like to know this. And if other people are not reporting, Epoch Times and NTD have been fantastic in reporting as many facts as they have available to them. But the truth is, the administration would typically, in these particular cases, have access to a greater range of facts and context than anybody else. So in a sense, it's their obligation to present the full picture to the public, especially when you have legacy media, as I say, trying to inflame people for biased political reasons. It makes perfect sense that they would do something like this. And also, just to add finally, the Trump administration has proven itself to be an extremely effective communicator to the public. Not perfect, but much more open source and going directly to the people by using social media channels and so on. And I think that's going to increase public trust in what the Trump administration is doing.
Now, given your point you've just made about previous administrations not having to, respond to a hostile media, if you will, we have a current political climate right now, and it can be harmful, So how harmful do you think this misinformation or bias can be to a president's agenda?
Well, it's frustrating because what it does is it diminishes public trust. I mean, many of these venues are things that I have relied on throughout my career. And just implicitly trusted that if a reporter is reporting something, they must be verified. It must have been checked by the editors, that they're anxious to present a valid and verified record as a way of chronicling American public life, in the public interest. I mean, that's how I always assume that media works. But there's something about the Trump administration that even as early as, I would say, 10 years ago, even when he first started running, where the deal that the American media made with the public was sort of broken. Now suddenly you have, and I don't think this is a controversial statement, you have an aggressively partisan press that's anxious to put the worst possible spin on absolutely everything this administration does. And it gets frustrating and it gets tiring. And from my own point of view, it makes me sad because I used to really love a lot of these venues and trust them. And I kind of cheer them on. I want them to be good, So when you see this kind of thing happening, it makes you sad for the media that we used to love and we used to trust, and that as Americans we felt a lot of pride in. And now you see this aggressive bias taking place. And sometimes, especially when it's a story that I know really well and I see what they're reporting, I just have to put down the paper and I'm in shock. Like, why are they saying this? Why are they doing this? And the only possible reason is just a wildly partisan mission that's going so far as to actually not report the full truth. And I see it again and again. It's been going on, as I say, for 10 years. So I think it's about time the Trump administration stood up to it. And again, they're not silencing anybody. They're not intervening in free speech. They're just looking to add their voice to the mixture of influences on the public mind. And that strikes me as not just legitimate, but in this case, wholly necessary.
Now, we're talking about free speech here. If you look back at the Biden administration, there was a lot of pushback when the Disinformation Governance Board was announced. And one of the biggest concerns was that it would infringe on free speech. So is the Trump administration's effort to expose so-called fake news and counter what it considers misinformation different? And should the White House be concerned about infringing on freedom of speech?
Yeah, I think your question is extremely insightful. And I will say this about everything I know about that Disinformation Board or whatever it was. So under the Biden administration, you had a great deal of links and communication that were going on between the administration and third-party nonprofits that were in turn linked with university study centers that had other relationships with social media companies. It was a complex network of censorship that was going on. In fact, even to explain it requires a lot of words and even charts. It was quite something else. So it was in effect operating as a censorship mechanism. So we have actual documents due to court filings and discoveries and everything else and FOIA requests that show White House officials reaching out directly to social media companies and threatening them. And then also those same individuals working with third parties at universities and other NGOs that had links to social media companies. And we have the testimony even of top executives at social media companies who have told under oath that they very much felt pressured by the White House to ban certain accounts, to throttle certain accounts, to ban certain words, in effect to be censorial in how they undertook the management of their companies. There's another fact, too, that I believe it was in 2022 or 2023, the Biden administration put out a declaration on the future of the internet that excluded the words free speech. They wanted the internet controlled by stakeholders like corporations, media companies, universities and other aspects, major players in civic society, that when I read that document, I thought, oh no, they really do aspire to make the internet work very much like, say, television did in the 1970s. I mean, it was very strange to me. So I think we have a great deal of documentation of what went on under the Biden administration. As far as I know, none of this is actually happening under the Trump administration. He put out an executive order on free speech. He's banned government from muscling social media companies. Many of the agencies and NGOs have been defunded by the Trump administration. So I think you're looking at a completely different approach to the management of the public mind. I think what you're seeing here is very simple. The Trump administration is setting up its own media communications department in every agency. And that is not an intervention in the First Amendment. That seems like that is the Trump administration exercising its First Amendment rights, just like everybody else. That's all.
Well, let's look at this from another perspective. So the next administration, for all we know, could oppose this administration's goals. And they could very well pick up the Trump model to counter what they consider to be misinformation. So what responsibility does the public have to conduct their own research to find the truth rather than relying on the government to make those decisions?
Oh, I'm 100% with you on this. We know this is going to happen. Everything that's happening under the Trump administration is serving as a kind of pedagogy for the next administration. We can expect all this to return if it's controlled by a different party or a different person. It's all going to be repeated. And yes, it does. I think it's probably in the end a good thing. As much as I sometimes look nostalgically back on the old days when there were 3 networks and everybody trusted the media, it's probably better to live in a world like we do now, where you have so many information sources. It's a cacophony out there. And I think anybody who's observing the media, the way it's developed and evolved over the last 5 or 10 years, is realizing that ultimately it comes down to the individual citizen himself or herself to make a judgment based on the facts as insofar as we can discern them, and that's probably a good thing. I mean, freedom can be messy, but in the end, I think it gives us the best chance for the truth to emerge on top.
Well, you know, Jeffrey, I think that President Trump has been very vocal about his feelings about the media, so it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone that this media bias website was formed. And I think that from here on out, you know, more people will start to look into this themselves to find out what the real truth is. Jeffrey Tucker, thank you so much for joining us.
Right. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up in college football, it's Championship Saturday with multiple playoff spots up for grabs. NTD's Dave Martin joins us with all the scores. And we all have our little daily routines and preferences, but when do they cross into OCD territory? A clinical psychologist breaks down the line between quirks and a true anxiety disorder when we return. For your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Arlene.
And I know you have some basketball scores and some World Cup news, but let's get to college football because today is Championship Saturday. So what's going on there so far?
Well, already we've had one game. We've had the Big 12 championship game. Number 4, Texas Tech beat 11th ranked BYU 34-7 for the Big 12 title. Let's take a look at this one here. The Red Raiders are really pretty dominant throughout, I would say. I mean, they were ranked 4th coming in, so this is definitely going to secure a playoff spot. Now, this is their 2nd win
over BYU this year. Now, BYU, meanwhile, went 11-2 against everyone else, 0-2 against Texas Tech. But this will probably drop BYU behind Miami in the playoff rankings, really out of playoff contention. Now, going on right now, we've got the SEC championship game. That's third-ranked Georgia. They lead number 9 Alabama 21-0 in the third quarter there. Now, whoever wins this one, of course, is in the playoffs. We'll see about the loser. Now, if Bama loses, that's their third loss. Maybe that opens the door for Miami, depending on the score. For Georgia, though, I think they're in no matter what. They only have one loss right now. Then tonight, we've got Ohio State, number 1, against number 2 Indiana for the Big Ten title. Both teams are undefeated. No matter who loses, they are still in the playoffs. And then also tonight, probably the most interesting game, number 17 Virginia places Duke. Now, if Virginia wins, they're most likely in. Now, Duke, though, they are unranked. If they win, they could really shake things up. I mean, maybe the ACC gets shut out of the playoffs. That would certainly create some uncertainty for sure in these playoffs here.
So why is there so much uncertainty in a Duke win?
Well, because they're not ranked right now. They're 7-5. They made their conference championship game, that's the ACC, after winning a 4-way tiebreaker. Now, there's the 5 automatic bids for the playoffs. They go to the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. Now, it was intended that those would be the 4 power conference champions winner: Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, and SEC, plus, one other group winner. But it was not written like that. Now, the other teams in the Big 12, Big 10, and SEC title games, they're all ranked in the top 11 spots. No matter who wins each game, there's no question they'll be ranked higher enough to get in. So there's the 3 of the 5 bids right there. Meanwhile, you had James Madison and Tulane each won their respective conferences last night. Both teams are ranked in the 20s somewhere. If Duke wins, who's not even ranked right now, the committee would have to somehow move them past one of those 2 lesser-known teams for them to get into the playoffs. And if they don't, which I couldn't imagine they would, the ACC is most likely looking at getting shut out of these playoffs altogether, which seems really unfathomable when you drew this up with 12 teams getting in. I mean, their best shot in that case is if Miami somehow moves up, which would take it took a BYU loss and it takes a Bama loss, and even at that, they need some help still. So Duke winning would really shake things up here. Virginia wins, though. It's very simple. Virginia's ranked 17th. If they win, they are definitely in.
Now, time for your soccer news. In D.C., the World Cup draw was held yesterday, and President Trump took center stage.
Yes, Trump was awarded the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize award by FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Trump called it one of the great honors of his life. Now, they also held the World Cup draw, which determines, each of the 12 4-team groups that the 48 World Cup teams will be divided into next summer. Team USA will be open against Paraguay on June 12th. They will face Australia a week later. The 4th team in their group still being determined. But let's listen to what Trump said, though, about whether we should call it soccer or football. Let's listen in here.
When you look at what has happened to football in the United States, again, soccer in the United States, we seem to never call it that because we have a little bit of a conflict with another thing that's called football. But when you think about it, shouldn't it really be called? I mean, this is football. There's no question about it. We have to come up with another name for this. Yeah. It really doesn't make sense when you think about it. This is really football.
Oh, isn't that what's spelled with a U? F-U-T ball? No. That's different.
I think it is. If we talk about it here in English, yeah, I think it's F-U-T-B-O-L. It's funny, you hear Gianni go, yes, he definitely wants it to be called that, right, for sure. I mean, I can't imagine we'd rename the most popular sport in the U.S., though, which is, American football. But of course, it does make more sense that soccer would be called football. I'm afraid it's just too ingrained at this point. But it was funny. It was funny to hear someone actually say that. Not too many Americans bring up that issue. To hear Trump just kind of say it off the cuff is kind of funny to hear, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to switch when you've known something for so many years. Soccer, I mean, it's automatic.
I know. I can go with calling it football. I can go with calling it American football, but football to me is just, it's still that.
Right. All right, so let's look at basketball. We have a number of ranked teams. Number 1, Purdue played. How'd they all do?
Well, Purdue did not do very well today, you know. I don't think they will be number one next week. Now, the Boilermakers were shocked at home by Iowa State. They lost 81-58. Let's take a look at this one. Cyclones led by just 4 points at the half. They went on an 11-0 run in the second half. They led by as many as 27. Remember, this is in Purdue. Now, the 23-point loss by Purdue, tied for the worst ever by an AP number one team. Go figure. Elsewhere, fourth-ranked Duke went out number 7 Michigan State 66-60. So the Big Ten had 2 of their best teams lose at home to non-conference opponents today. And then a third, you got 22nd-ranked Indiana lost to number 6 Louisville. It's really a tough day for the conference, although number 3 Michigan did beat Rutgers, although both teams are Big Ten there. Now, meanwhile, tonight, 14th-ranked Illinois, another Big Ten team, is at number 13 Tennessee. 23rd-ranked St. John's hosts Ole Miss, and number 20 Auburn is at second-ranked Arizona. So if you're not watching all the football games going on, there's plenty of basketball to see tonight.
And that's football without the U, right? Foot, F-O-O-T.
That's American football tonight. I'll go with that far.
All right. Well, Dave, thanks so much, as usual.
Thanks, Arlene.
Okay. Color coding your wardrobe, double checking the locks, washing your hands a few extra times. These are habits many of us have. But when do ordinary routines cross the line into obsessive-compulsive disorder? In this episode of Vital Signs, clinical psychologist Dr. Jessica Russo joins host Brendan Fallon to explain what separates quirks from a true anxiety disorder and the underlying causes that drive compulsive behavior.
You know, that guy disinfects his computer keyboard every day. He is so OCD. Why is this term OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, so embedded in our everyday speech? Why does this dysfunction turn up so much in our movies and TV shows? Is it because so many people can relate to these traits? But where lies the dividing line between someone who's a bit over-preoccupied with cleanliness or order or routine and someone who might be diagnosed OCD? Legendary aviator Howard Hughes' painstaking attention to detail distinguished his films and engineering before he sunk into deep debilitation. Can OCD traits give people a competitive edge on certain fronts? Joining us to probe these and other matters of OCD today is Dr. Jessica Russo. She's a clinical psychologist with decades of experience helping people manage and resolve addiction, anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. Today, she illuminates the brain mechanics of OCD and through real-world examples illuminates underlying causes of this condition and how she's guided people in their recovery. Welcome to Vital Signs, where we learn how to get healthy from all angles, from the biochemical and nutritional to the things we do that nourish our minds and our souls. I'm Brendan Fallon. Dr. Russo, wonderful to have you join us on Vital Signs again, and fantastic to get your perspective on this topic, OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, that has really pervaded our mainstream, our pop culture, from TV shows to cinema, and has become part of our everyday language. We throw this term around if someone's a little bit meticulous, if they like to be particularly ordered, or they've got a thing for hygiene or cleanliness, we tend to call them OCD. But I wonder, where does the line lie between someone's quirky behavior and someone who has a full-blown anxiety disorder?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's true, so many people are talking about themselves this way. There's 2 major distinctions here. One is that these obsessions are really distressing for the person. And that's often not true with people who just have obsessive thoughts. And the other thing is these obsessions are often accompanied by compulsions. And we can see in the brain that there's a real difference between somebody who has OCD and somebody who doesn't. So there are 4 major regions of the brain that are overactive in OCD. So you have the orbital frontal cortex, which is one, and this is in charge of decision-making and risk assessment. So if you are needing to use the bathroom and there's only a public bathroom, you're going to assess that as very dangerous, where someone else might think, okay, this is just a low level of risk. There's contamination, but that's fine. I'll just wash my hands. I won't touch anything. No problem. That may not be the case for somebody with an OCD brain because of this overactivation. And then there's the anterior cingulate cortex, which works alongside this other section. That first region I mentioned, that's right behind the eyes. This is one that's just a little bit deeper in the brain, and this is involved in error detection and emotional regulation. So something being wrong in the environment, or you've done something wrong, that's very common with OCD. There's a real focus on making a mistake. I've made a mistake. It's a horrible mistake, catastrophizing. And that can really be unbearable. And, this is where the compulsions come in.
This could be like a moral mistake, or it could just be like a messing up in a test or something like that. It's not specific to any particular kind of error.
Not normally, but there definitely is a theme of not wanting to hurt other people and fearing that you are. So it often shows up that way. So the idea being, I've done something to really hurt someone, I've disappointed someone, I've compromised someone. There's a lot of shame that we see in OCD. So you've got that, and then you've got an area called the basal ganglia. That's deeper within the brain, and that focuses on habit formation, movement regulation, and again, very overactive. So this is where the repetition comes in. People with OCD, they may engage in a compulsion, but they can't necessarily stop that easily because this signal to stop is just not activating. They think, okay, I haven't done enough. I have to keep doing it. Maybe they don't even know why they have to keep doing it, but they're compelled to keep doing it. And then finally, there's the thalamus. The basal ganglia surrounds the thalamus, and the thalamus is in charge of receiving information, relaying information, and again, very overactive. So you have this circuit that normally, in a normal brain, you recognize, okay, I need to do a task. You do the task like washing your hands after using the bathroom, and then you're done. And you can leave the bathroom. But somebody who doesn't have that stop signal, they're not going to be able to stop. They're just compelled to keep doing it. So that's a really big difference between somebody who just has some obsessions and someone who has OCD.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
Coming up, researchers in Europe discover more than 60,000 miles of roads built by the Romans. A new interactive map allows users to see how the ancient network connected the empire. And a new exhibition in Paris features the Orient Express. The installation celebrates the train's history and the beginning of the Art Deco style. We take a look inside after the break. Researchers in Europe have discovered more than 60,000 miles of roads built by the Romans. Today, a new interactive map allows users to see how the ancient network connected the empire. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Satellite surveys, topographical maps, and software have revealed more of the Roman Empire. A new study published in journal Scientific Data shows the extent of Rome's roads and where they led. Lead author Tom Brugman says the traffic helped shape modern Europe.
We have long-distance trade, grain being produced in Egypt and being consumed in Rome, traded and transported over vast distances. We also have phenomena like Germanic tribes and their mass migration of Germanic peoples into the Western Roman Empire and contributing to its fall in the 5th century.
Brugmans explains how the Romans were able to take control of and improve the routes.
It conquered areas that were already densely urbanized. With a vast net of existing roads, the Romans continued to use them, they upgraded them. An important contribution by the Romans is that they connected up all of those local road systems.
The Roman Empire covered more than 1.5 million square miles. Its road network would connect its far-flung corners.
So for the very first time, it was possible to move overland from Syria to Spain, for example, these vast distances. It was truly the first continental-scale terrestrial transport infrastructure.
A new high-resolution digital dataset and map covers roads throughout the Roman Empire. Brugmans hopes people are interested to learn more about their connections to the ancient civilization.
It's kind of like a GPS, like a Google Maps of the ancient world. What I want people to do is explore it, see where their house is, see where the nearest Roman road is.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And the Orient Express is now part of a new exhibition in Paris. The installation celebrates the train's history and the beginning of the Art Deco style. Here's a closer look.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of the 1925 International Exhibition of Decorative Arts and Modern Industries, the event that gave Art Deco its name. A star of the new exhibition in Paris, the Orient Express, with 3 life-size displays of the new train. Architect Maxime Donziak says the design pays tribute to the original while embracing new methods.
Orient Express, in a train, if you don't go on each details, it's a problem. Because the glass is going to vibrate, is going to move. The chairs has to be heavy, but not too much.
Donziak worked with artisans to outfit the new train. Modern amenities make the journey more comfortable and luxurious.
Toilets behind these doors, a real shower, which is huge instead of a lot of place in Paris, because it's 80 centimeters of diameters, with a panel, it's not there, but it's movable to give privacy.
The new train will host 64 guests on a 2 to 4 day journey between Paris and Istanbul, but it's more like a traveling hotel.
You have to entertain them, to feed them, to make them curious, to make them really comfortable. So it's a huge performance.
Beyond the train, the Paris exhibition explores Art Deco's broader influence. Deputy Curator Mathieu Joncher explains.
Art Deco is about simplification of forms, of patterns, of motifs. They are more or less the same motifs as Art Nouveau, like women, animals, or flowers, but they are simpler and geometric.
1925 to 2025, 100 Years of Art Deco runs until April 26, 2026. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And that's the news for this evening. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Arlene Richards. Good night.